Hey, Rock. Can everyone see me? Can anyone hear me? I think Jean Francois might have had the magic elixir there. I went out, rebooted the computer, and then went to some other YouTube channel and then came back. Um, hmm. Let's see. Okay, what I'm going to. It dumped just as you moved, huh? Hello, everyone. Hi, Jean Francois. I think you might have been right, Jean Francois. Don't move.
The goddess is staying far away from this.
The goddess is displeased.
The goddess is going to let you crash and burn on your own, dude. Sorry. I very shortly have to go check on what's going on across the pond anyway.
Yeah, the stream lives, basically. Hey, Alex. Uh, I just learned this week that the legislative prohibition on cyanide leaching in Montana only applies to open pit mines. Now, I'm sure there's a practical difficulty in getting a mill a new mill permitted for underground mines, but it's not legislatively prohibited. That might come in handy sometime or another. I've got an Ethernet connection here, Brian. Yeah, well, environmentalists. We had one time in Arizona, they wanted to have an anti trapping law. Okay. And everyone knows what that would mean in a reasonable manner. Um, you know, no leg hold traps and stuff like this. However, it was worded in such a way, something like, we, the people of Arizona, desiring to manage our wild animals and stuff, pests, etc., in only humane means, blah, blah, blah. And it would be very easy to interpret that to mean you can't kill anything with any methods, period. End of story. You know? Exactly.
Well,
It was a referendum, Jean Francois.
I think in Montana we have a referendum or an amendment that says we have a right to clean water.
Yeah. That's what they like to do, Jean Francois. They'll come up with an initiative, they'll word it in a way that sounds really cool, but when you look at it carefully, you realize it goes way beyond what they're saying publicly, and then hope that the people don't know and vote because it's like, oh, we want scenery, we want clean air, we want clean water. And yeah, so yeah, this is the same agendas in Quebec where they legislate against cruelty against animals, applying to all vertebrates, including fishes, which would have shut down fishing. Yep.
Oh, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yep, exactly, Alex. This is, and I do not believe that the people who draft these initiatives are so uh,
Naive.
naive, is a good word, that they don't realize what it is they're writing up. I think that these people have been around a long time. They know exactly what they're doing.
Of course they do.
And therefore, they are doing it deliberately. But yeah, exactly, Jean Francois. And uh, the blue ore. Oh no, but yeah. Hey, uh, are you still here, Rock? I got a specimen to show you.
The pretty peacock stuff?
Yeah, this peacock stuff. Now this was a chip off of a rock from something that Jimmy had. I've got this in with me here, so it should be with me when we come up to visit you. But it looks, it's a peacock sort of thing. Now, I don't know if you can see it too well, but it's got an iridescence, a peacock iridescence to it.
Yeah, it looks for all the world like bornite, but it's heavy.
Yeah, and I think it's bornite. It's heavy. I mean, it's quite dense, and I think it's bornite. Because I know that when we did a test, when we looked at it under a microscope, I could see some yellow. This is scratching what looks to be gray on superficial yeah, it looks like it's scratching gray, although there's some yellow showing through. And so I suspect it's bornite. Yeah. Is it a copper iron sulfide or is it a copper sulfide, Alex? I thought chalcopyrite is copper iron sulfide. I'm not sure what bornite is. Magnetic Cu5FeS4. Okay. Yeah, bornite is like that. Okay. Well, anyhow, I got this little chip here that I'm going to bring with me, Rock, so you can take a look at it in person.
It's pretty.
It's not easy to make very definitive stuff over the internet, you know. So anyhow, yeah, I've got it in this sack here, which is with all my medicines, which means I should load it up. It's actually not, it doesn't really have much of a crystal shape. It's a brittle solid with kind of an irregular cleavage. But as I say, I'll bring this with me so that so you can take a look at it there, Rock. Yeah, I would say massive with no crystal form. Agreed, Rock. That's what I would look at here. But anyhow, we're also bringing some quartz crystals with us and stuff. I don't know if you want any of those, but we'll have a few extras.
And I am bringing the most handsome dude I have from one of our projects.
And
a perfect exemplar.
And a good exemplar of one of the stuff there. Well, since Eva never looks through the live chat replay or whatever, I'll have to agree with Eva with that, Lars, too.
What?
You don't need to know.
Y'all be talking behind my back again.
No, I'm talking in front of your face, but it's just far enough away you can't read the text. Anyhow, so we have no couch. Around here, if I was going to be sleeping anywhere besides the bed, it would be the floor, either that or the minor bago. Uh, but anyhow, so that's nah. Tub's not big enough for me. 6'1" wouldn't fit. Uh, anyhow,
I could make you fit. This can happen, you know.
see, everyone's just trying to get me in trouble. Uh, let's see. I got the knuckles kind of healing up, Jimmy. Last week before I went up to help Jimmy on that other project, I got a sliver in my knuckle here, and it came out, but it took a while to heal up. I had to soak it in Epsom salts and a few other things, but I think I'm basically on the mend now. I get the feeling it might have actually hit the capsule or the tendon or something like that. But yeah. Oh, anyhow, yeah, we could keep a lab busy this summer if we had one.
Yeah.
But
I am still making offerings to the great fairy god scientists in hopes that lab things happen.
yep, we're um, going to be doing probably more field exploration this summer than we did, you know, uh, 2 summers ago or even last week. It's going to be iffy whether or not once we get down to the 40-foot level, whether or not the Montana bee is going to be worth it or not. I suspect that we can get roughly the same quality of ore someplace else pretty well. Now, on your Aqua Regia zinc drop, did you neutralize the Aqua Regia first, or at least the nitrates in it? The oxidate. What do? You add urea, right, to take out the nitric acid? Okay, so you just used enough zinc to consume uh, the Aqua Regia. Now, the Aqua Regia, was that dissolving the gold from the ore itself, or were you trying to strip the ore from the activated carbon? I forget exactly what system you're using. Stripping carbon. Okay. Had a couple interesting medical tests this week. Nothing urgent or whatever. I had some pulmonary tests yesterday. It's quite thorough. They got some interesting technology nowadays, so they can tell how your alveoli doing, what's the gas exchange, what's the this, what's the that. It's like wow. It's
Apparently,
interesting.
things went a little nuts in Teaneck, New Jersey.
What happened in Teaneck, New Jersey?
Pro-Palestinian protesters were trying to overrun a congregation.
Palestinian protesters. Okay.
Things get real interesting.
Yeah, Eva's going to have some fun information on what's going on in Scotland right now. That's getting pretty interesting. But anyhow, so let's say he got. Of course, the technicians are not allowed to say anything. Basically, I agree. I like being very routine, Jean-Francois. The guy says he got good data. What is your TLC? Not familiar with the specific acronym, and I have no data at this time. Due to the laws, they're not. It is now, Chris. So the technician isn't allowed to do anything. Total lung capacity. Don't know at this time. He got really good data, didn't have any problems, etc. I'm just kind of checking to see whether or not all the dust I've gotten exposed to over the years is doing anything significant to my lungs. I also did a neurological exam on Tuesday that took 8 hours of testing. Again, no electrodes or anything, just a bunch of uh, interaction sort of stuff. And that, it was also interesting. And they got good data. And I've had a similar, yeah, kind of, Chris. Um, I had a similar test, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago or something. So they have a good baseline to measure against. And again, what I'm trying to do is I'm clearly not mentally as good as I used to be. But the question is it anything abnormal or anything of any special concern, or is it just aging? So I want to keep on top of that. I mean, I've dodged a bullet 3 times so far, plus, routine maintenance sort of surgeries and stuff. So I like to check things out and make sure nothing's going all to hell.
Oh, Elon posted his April Fool's joke of the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, Lars.
To join Disney as their chief DEI officer. Can't wait to work with Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy to make their content more woke.
Yep. You get a chest X-ray every 3 years, huh? Interesting. So, I say the technician said that he was getting good data, etc., and it seemed extremely thorough, and so I imagine that the person who analyzes all that stuff will be able to get fairly useful results to present to me. I presume the same thing with the neurological testing. And the one test that I really like that's kind of odd is, let's see, red, green, blue. It starts out, the first page, you have a bunch of rectangles. And you got red and green and blue. And you'll have long lines, at least a dozen per line, about 6 lines on a page. And she starts a timer, and you go through, and these are random orders and stuff, and you just say red, green, blue, blue, green, blue, blue, as fast as you can. And she times it. And then you have a page where it's written like this. And it's a different sequence, or I presume it is. And then you read the words, and she times that. And then they get to a page where it's like, screen. Where you have the words written in ink of a color, and you have to look at these. So green, red, blue, like that, because you're looking at the color of the thing. And then they will have a page where occasionally some of the words are going to be bracketed like that. These you have to tell her the color of the ink, and this you have to read the word. And it's amazingly difficult to go fast. But it's pretty funny. Sweet. Yep. So it's an interesting day, and they had one too where they had a drawing kind of like this. Let's see. And then there's that, and then this down here, and something over here. Like this. And you get another sheet of paper. She says, now duplicate this drawing. And like every 30 seconds, she hands me a different colored pen. So you can see by the colors of the pens how I went about actually reconstructing it. And oh, it's not that bad, Rock. I've had a stroke in the past. I'm getting old and like that. So I think my recall, my memory and stuff are mainly just from age. But we don't really know. And I'd like to know. I do know I have a right parietal lesion, you know. So anyhow, let's say I would just as soon know than guess. Hey, Poker Face. Pardon?
James O'Keefe just got threatened by somebody.
Well, yeah, of course. James O'Keefe has made a number of enemies.
Yeah, lately he's been posting some really dynamite stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Of course. So, anyhow, that was it. I had a couple interesting things. Eva went to her cancer doctor's office. Her regular doctor was on vacation. The fill-in doctor was pretty cool. Basically, again, they've decided, as far as they can tell, she doesn't have cancer anymore. They'll kind of monitor it, once a year. They'll do a CT scan or something like that, and that's about it. And so, as far as we can tell, Eva is cancer-free, which is very good news. So, it was just a whole week of, call it routine testing, but there's particular things we were checking, but not anticipating anything really extraordinary in the results, but just double checking. I'd prefer double checking. I mean, I'm a cancer survivor, stroke survivor, aortic aneurysm survivor, plus, testicular trauma, gallbladder, a few other little things too. So, well, sometimes the enemy of your enemy is also your enemy, Brian. So that can get complicated. But yeah, the international situation is getting a bit complicated. Excellent. I say, so far we both seem to be okay. Both of us seem to respond well to surgery. It was limited enough and localized enough that it didn't. I've had, I mean, mine was like 6 or 7 years ago. Of course they are, Jean-Francois, because they can't charge piles of money for it. Now they'll change the molecule by one bond somewhere and say this is the newer, greater version, even if it doesn't work as well, and try and charge $1 billion. Yep. Exactly, Jean-Francois. So, is it any wonder that 2/3 of the world is signing out on us? You know, they're like, yeah, we don't like the way they're playing the game.
Wow.
What, little one?
There's a new luxury bamboo toilet paper that may save the planet.
A bamboo toilet paper that may save the planet.
Yeah, it's blowing up the internet here.
Blowing up the, oh, now that's not a good term to use. Okay.
It broke the internet.
So.
Plenty of other things are breaking the internet.
Anyhow, I'll say we got plenty to do to keep busy. In theory, we should be able to upload videos from the road. In theory, we should be able to do some live streams from the road some places. But then, in theory, we should have been able to do a live stream from here without too much trouble. Oh, Jean-Francois, you're so behind the times. This was years ago. The Japanese determined that about 25% of human feces is edible protein. Okay? And they were working on extracting this protein and then putting it, back into the human food supply and stuff. And while this may be technologically quite feasible, the marketing department is going to have to work miracles. No, it's just a matter of the inefficiency of our digestive system. This is another reason why dogs eat their own feces, because it's usually got sufficient nutrients in it to make it worthwhile.
They aren't the only species.
Pretty much, Adam. But I was like, can you imagine the marketing department on that one?
Oh my wow. God. This is somebody who's bizarre.
That's worse than you will eat the bugs. What, little one?
Well, to be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to enjoy John Oliver. Apparently, if you're not in the upper 30% of the population, you're not going to understand John Oliver.
If you're not,
Stewart is more your speed.
It's only the top 30% can understand John Oliver.
Yeah. I'm thinking that's not the flex that yo-yo thinks it is. Okay.
Yeah. Anyhow, as I say, that would have to be a hell of a marketing
Trump got his $175 million bond.
Yeah.
He got it.
Okay. So, anyhow, that's kind of the news personally here. Lauren is doing a great job on that truck. It's going to work and run. I mean, it's going to look and run good. Yeah, exactly. In the last couple of days, she posted another video or so. I suspect she's probably asleep or something, because when she shows up, she's pretty hard to miss. But I've seen her post a couple of videos in the last week, so I know she's still up and about. And Honey Bunny, one of our regulars, Brian. You've been here with Honey Bunny. When she gets on a roll, she can type quick.
There was apparently a tornado warning in Oklahoma.
Yep. So, yeah. I think it's Honey Bunny something or other, yeah. That could be it, Rock.
Honey Bunny's heavy metal mining and something.
Heavy metal machinery, I think. Honey Bunny's heavy metal machinery, something to that effect. But Yeah, my guess is she's asleep. There's, uh, she's got her own YouTube channel. She has very little uh, posted and not too many subscribers, but you can look it up. Heavy metal music, mining, and machinery. Okay, there you go. Jean-Francois's got it.
Jean-Francois knows all here.
Yep.
Apparently. Oh, yeah, that's lovely.
So, I say we're now on track to be busy until wintertime because we'll be down there helping Jimmy this week, and then we'll be getting ready for the road, and then we're going to be doing a lot of traveling, roughly a little over 5,000 miles in about 2 weeks. The person I saw didn't have a beard. Okay. I do not know Rock. It's unusual. But anyhow, then as soon as we get back, everything will have melted. And we're just going to be busy, busy, busy. Get the mill up and running again. Start running some of the material that we've got stockpiled. Get the, start processing some of the resin left over from last year. We don't have much. A few cartridges that are loaded. I've got, we've actually got some electrolytic residue we haven't even smelted yet. So Eva's going to be getting busy right away too. When are we heading back from Boston?
We're taking off the 20th.
The 20th?
Yeah. Maybe the 21st. It depends on what my son does.
Brian is off through the 21st.
Yeah, I know, but I thought he might want some time without us since we're essentially showing up the second he gets off.
Roughly the 20th to 21st in that area there. Certainly by the 22nd we'll be gone because her son's last day off is the 21st. So that's it. We'll get back just in time to see our giant debut performance on the Discovery Channel. And what I'd like to do, if Lauren isn't out in the field and everything, is to go to the man cave and do a reaction video with one camera watching us and the other camera watching the TV, so we can do one of those reaction videos sort of things. That would be fun. Say we shall have to see. His system over there, I don't know if Clara knows even how to turn on everything because he's got 3 different remotes to work his audio-visual system.
Small, okay?
Yeah.
This is
Simple. Yeah. But anyhow, so that would be kind of cool. 6 p.m. Eastern time, correct. The 3rd of May. So we shall see. It's Dave Turin's Backyard Gold, I believe. Okay. Oh, I see a tinfoil hat goddess.
Move. This is going to be short.
That would be great, Polka Face. So, you've got my email, don't you, Polka Face? Hold on a second, little one.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, you got our email, don't you? What I'm thinking is...
Yeah, we'd love to meet.
Okay. Let me just type it in here to make it simple. Okay, there you go. That's my email. Send me an email and we can exchange phone numbers. And that way we can communicate easily when we're in Boston. We should be getting there
We should be getting there.
on the 17th,
Yeah.
roughly. So
Aiming for night of the 17th or during the day on the 18th.
we're going to be like the 17th through the 20th or something.
You want
there.
to update that number or not?
Well, I suppose I could. Just a second. Let me find it.
You can always update
Writing
it when I'm
implement.
done.
Okay, when you're done. How's that?
Okay. Hi, everybody. It has been a bizarre couple of days. There's actually news. Of course, none of it has happened in America because no news ever happens in America. We all know this.
We have a wonderful president.
We have a wonderful president. And today, well, not today, yesterday, whenever they had that Easter egg hunt over at the White House, they had oyster bunnies. Yeah, oyster bunnies.
Well, we're not sure
So
why.
cool.
It was the Transgender Day of Awareness because our president says he never signed such a proclamation.
Well, it's been the Transgender Day of Visibility since 2009. The issue here was that they decided to proclaim the Visibility Day rather than proclaiming Jesus Visibility Day, which is what everybody called it on Twitter. But that's an entirely different story. We've had a blessedly news-free week now, haven't we? Absolutely nothing's been going on. Oh, well, there was this little thing. According to an actual PhD who may have piled higher and deeper something useful on Le Twitter, the federal budget is on a collision course with Archimedes. You know things are bad if we're colliding with Archimedes, right?
Archimedes?
Yeah. Most of the spending is on autopilot and will continue to grow out of control, even if Congress cuts discretionary spending to the bone. And don't think we can inflate our way out of this by devaluing the dollar further. Much of the mandatory spending is indexed to inflation, which, by the way, is kind of sort of part of the reason that the federal government is choosing to artificially suppress the inflation numbers, because when things are indexed to inflation, it behooves you to keep your inflation low on paper. Just saying. But it was rather interesting that something actually showed up on Le Twitter, on the platform formerly known as Twitter, where things have been very, very bizarre the last several days. Extremely bizarre. Beyond comprehensionally bizarre here. Anyway, in the mining world, gold price hits another all-time high as that Fed-fueled rally continues. Hello, hello. Yes, we did. Gold continued its historic rally on Monday by setting another record high, as the latest U.S. inflation data further boosted expectations of a Federal Reserve interest rate cut this coming June. Spot gold hit an all-time high of $2,265.53 per ounce in the early hours of trading, an increase of 1.6% on Thursday's closing price, before paring some gains to close at $2,247.16. Okay. Meanwhile, U.S. gold futures shot up 1.2% to $2,265.70 per ounce in New York. The Fed's preferred gauge of underlying inflation, the Core Personal Consumption Expenditures Index, as in CPCEI, cooled in February, data showed Friday, which it didn't really, but when many markets were closed. That added to the case for a reduction in borrowing costs and, importantly, for investors to pivot toward the non-yielding bullion. A host of positive drivers have already pushed up bullion by around 14% since the middle of February. Oh, yeah. These include the prospect of monetary easing by major central banks and elevated tensions in the Middle East and Ukraine. There's also been strong buying at central banks, particularly in China, where consumers have been loading up on the metal amid ongoing problems in Asia's largest economy. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Its central bank has added substantial volumes of bullion to its reserves, boosting holdings in each of the past 16 months. After the inflation figures, Fed Chair Jerome Powell said the prints were pretty much in line with our expectations. Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. When you cook the numbers, that can happen. And there wasn't any rush to cut rates. Swaps markets are currently pricing in a 61% chance of a Fed cut in June, up from a 57% chance on Thursday. Oh, yeah. Later this week, investors will get a further chance to gauge the outlook for the U.S. economy and central bank policy, with monthly payrolls expected to increase by at least 200,000 for a fourth straight month. Oh, yeah. Spoiler alert. When they revise the figures a month from now, yeah, it's not going to be pretty. Okay? Inflation data, and in Powell's comments in particular, have provided a further boost to gold, with the market becoming increasingly convinced the Fed will start to cut rates in June, said Warren Patterson, head of commodity strategy at ING Group NV. However, it wouldn't take much of a catalyst to see a pullback in the short term. And that could be a stronger than expected U.S. jobs report, Patterson warned. The metal's positive prospects have been endorsed by a slew of leading banks, an absolute slew. Wow. Among them,
Jean-Francois.
J.P. Morgan Chase said last month gold was its number one pick in the commodities market. Well, no shit, Sherlock, since J.P. Morgan Chase is now still allowed to manipulate the market, and they certainly are enjoying doing so. Yeah. And the price may reach $2,500 an ounce this year. Goldman Sachs Group, another manipulator, said it sees potential for $2,300, highlighting the benefits from a lower interest rate environment. So the goddess sees a potential for it to bounce around between 23 and 2,500 so that the top three manipulators can make a lot of money playing, games with the paper. Just saying. I'm only a goddess, The slightly lower than expected U.S. inflation figure last Friday is supporting the outlook of a mid-year rate cut by the Fed, said UBS analyst Giovanni Stalnovo in a note to Reuters on Monday. Markets will now want to see if the payroll data will confirm a soft landing from the job market in the U.S. Ongoing solid demand is helping the yellow metal as well, although higher prices may weigh on jewelry demand, Stalnovo added. Still, gold's ascent has yet to strike a chord among investors who favor exposure to the metal through exchange-traded funds. Worldwide holdings in bullion-backed ETFs shrank by more than 100 tons in the first quarter. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Hitting the lowest level since 2019 in mid-March before a small uptick, according to Bloomberg tally. So, yeah, we are in the midst of a rally. Even so, gold and silver are still on sale and premiums are looking good. And it should be noted that while the goddess is on the road, headed that way and then heading back this way, we will be stopping at lots of coin shops. Whether we buy anything or not, the goddess is going to be checking premium prices and seeing what things look like out in the world. Somebody has to keep an eye on things. I have 4 eyes. I can spare 2 to keep an eye on things. Just saying. Besides, I like to at least attempt to shop, as long as I'm shopping for silver and gold. Totally worthless to buy anything else. Well, except maybe brisket. I mean, it's always good to shop for brisket, I think. Just saying. But that's where we are in that. And it was quite an interesting set of figures in the market. Because, of course, the Fed figures are absolutely fictitious. What else is new? And people have completely lost track again of the fact that approximately 60 to 90 days after the massive job numbers drop every month, they get revised in very, very ugly ways. And approximately 30 to 45 days after the amazing inflation numbers drop, they get revised in really ugly ways. Yeah. People tend to forget that this happens. You might want to remember that these are numbers that you want to go look up about 45 to 60 days after they drop because they always get revised.
And always in the same way.
Yeah, and always in the same way, which is a very, very interesting fact of life as things go. Meanwhile, as I said, gold and silver are still on sale. Ridiculously enough, with everything going on, gold right now is sitting at $22.47.70. Silver is sitting at $25.15. We actually managed to stay over 25 bucks after closing. This is a miracle here. You know, that is looking pretty darn good for the moment. That said, scammers are happening again in several ways. Just as a few examples that the goddess knows about, on Reddit, there is a sub called PMs for Sale, and they have been hit with a lot of hackers and scammers that have been hacking the accounts of established sellers and impersonating the accounts of established sellers and ripping off new people who don't know what the hell they're doing. There has also been a proliferation of brand new secondary sale websites coming up that claim to aggregate you the best deals from various other websites or say that they're selling things and they don't. Then there's your usual scammers. AliExpress is freaking awash with counterfeit. Okay? Temu is awash with counterfeit. eBay is awash with counterfeit. There has been counterfeit spotted on Walmart.com amongst the third-party sellers and on Amazon.com amongst various sellers. Please, 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 if you really insist on leaving a dang paper trail and buying your metals online, go to a reputable dealer. Go to Walmart.com and look for the AppMex direct ship stuff because it's cheaper than the AppMex website for some bizarre reason. Or go to the AppMex website, or go to Money Metals, or go to SD Bullion. Just don't go to any yo-yos, okay? And if you're shopping on eBay, only shop through the portals of reputable dealers. Your best bet is going to be going to your local coin shop with your fancy, pretty looking toilet paper in hand and doing a currency exchange on the spot so you get instant gratification, no shipping fees, and privacy. You may have to pay just a tad more, but it's worth the privacy. And yes, once again, Costco is selling gold and silver like freaking hotcakes. It's flying off the freaking website. So you might want to keep an eye on the Costco website, okay? This past week, they had a great deal on gold that for a very short golden moment of about 23 minutes before it sold out entirely, people were literally getting their gold at spot after shipping. It was crazy to see what was going on there, okay? This is the kind of thing, normally the goddess is all about shopping bargains, okay? The goddess is all about going out there and buying things from all kinds of different websites. But when it comes to this, with the amount of the sheer volume of counterfeit that is happening now, and it's counterfeit of all times. It's counterfeit of pump squeeze gold bars that are still in the supposed assay case. It's counterfeit of Morgan silver dollars. It's counterfeit of American silver eagles, American gold eagles, American buffaloes, gold and silver. I mean, it's just ridiculous what is running around out there. So please, please, please be careful when you are buying. But that does not mean you should not be buying. So let's see what other gold and silver scams are showing up according to our old friends over there at Money Metals. An elderly woman in Maryland lost nearly $800,000 in a gold scam. The incident underscores the importance of using caution when buying, selling, and handling gold and silver. The Montgomery County detective Sean Petty told NBC4 the woman was taken by a well-crafted scam. The ripoff started when the victim received a phone call from a man claiming to be a federal investigator. He told her buying gold would help protect her from identity thieves. Big red flag there. The goddess never would have fallen for it, but I can understand why some people would. Okay. The 64-year-old woman proceeded to wire $789,000 to a gold bullion company to purchase gold bars. So far, so good. There's nothing wrong with buying gold bars. While it might not protect you from identity thieves, it will protect you from the government stealing your wealth with constant currency devaluation. But then the woman made a big mistake. She met a man in a parking lot near her home and handed over her gold. Twice. The goddess would like to think that none of her viewers ate the fruit of the idiot tree before or after being beat by the stupid stick. Okay? This woman is too naive to be living on her own. Quite frankly, nobody that naive should have almost $1 million to begin with. Okay?
She doesn't. Not anymore.
Yeah. The scammers convinced the woman the man was a government courier and they would safely store her gold for her. A relative finally convinced the victim she was being scammed and she reported it to the police. Officers set up a sting operation contacting the scammers and setting up a third handoff. This time, the woman was an undercover officer. Police arrested Wan Hui Sun of Lake Harbor, California. Unfortunately for the woman, there's still no sign of her gold. According to Maryland State's Attorney John McCarthy, the nationwide cash to gold scam victimized at least a dozen senior citizens across the country. Money Metals has detected 2 other such incidents in the past 2 weeks and even helped bag one of the crooks in Illinois who had 16 gold kilo bars in his possession. Okay. Meanwhile, the FBI recently put out a public service announcement regarding the scheme. They actually took some time off from bothering people at their homes about social media posts, I guess. Nice of them. Don't be a scam victim. First and foremost, only do business with a trusted company. It should go without saying, never buy gold or silver in a parking lot behind a convenience store. This has happened. Or from a sketchy strip mall storefront. That has happened too. If you do buy gold or silver or anything of value in an online sale off of Craigslist or whatever, where you're meeting somebody in person, make the exchange at your local police department. Most police departments, or at least the ones that are still open, which leaves out a lot of the ones in Baltimore, for instance, most police departments have an area with cameras where you can go and you can conduct sales from Craigslist and stuff. Never, ever agree to Venmo anybody any money or Zelly anybody any money. You always, always, always conduct any deals in cash. No checks. No money orders. There are now counterfeit money orders running around. No Venmos. No Zellys. No PayPals. None of that crap. Only cash, people. And remember, the cardinal rule of any scam, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably freaking is, okay? So let's see what else we have to do here. And securely store your gold and silver, either in your own safe or in a trusted, vaulted security. And fourth, don't unnecessarily tell the entire world how much you have. The fewer people who know about it, the safer you'll be. Now, the goddess does show people regularly the interesting oddball generic rounds that I get that are, a good price because I know what I'm looking at and I know what I'm looking for. And they're cute and they're cool. That doesn't mean anybody knows where the hell they are. Perish the thought. Really now, And remember, again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. The goddess this past week saw some brand newbie who showed up on our silver sub on Reddit asking, and we get this question now 4 or 5 times a week. I got a chance to score some really pretty Morgan silver dollars from this website that has a store on eBay that's got like a 10,000 star rating, 10,000 happy customers. And I can get them for only $15 each. Is that a good deal? No, 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 no.
Don't. If it was real.
Yeah, it would be a great deal if it's real. 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time, it is not going to be real. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Okay? So do be aware as people feel more insecure about their money, as the price of gold keeps going up, as silver starts to go up, people are going to be looking at the idea of buying it. And the scammers are already out there looking at ways to get their hands on it. And with the coming economic collapse, we should all be preppers now. So let's see what they got to say about this one. The label prepper carries some baggage. Yes, indeed it does. Oh well. Even after all this country has seen in the recent years, some people still consider those who stock up on food, ammo, bullion, and other emergency essentials as a little bit nuts. No. Perish the thought. Despite those close brushes with disaster, including the 2008 financial crisis and the more recent supply chain disruptions associated with COVID-19, it somehow seems hard to believe the nation's critical systems are at risk. Normalcy bias is a luxury people can no longer afford. Anyone operating as if the next 20 years are going to look pretty much like the last 20, well, you ain't paying attention. I'm sorry, at this point, I do have to ask, if you're still in that mindset, were you beat with a stupid stick before or after you ate the fruit of the idiot tree? Just gotta ask, The collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore is the latest warning. We are dependent on fragile, complex, interconnected systems. The nation's transportation system is only one of them. Other examples include the financial system and the electrical grid. It does not require a deliberate attack to disrupt these systems. Incompetence, corruption, and negligence can yield the same result. So can random accidents. The reason the container ship struck one of the primary bridge supports might have been any of those things. There's also the possibility it was deliberate, and that other attacks may be in the offing. Even if the incident proves to be an isolated event, the ramifications will be widespread. The loss of a critical bridge and the short-term shutdown of the Port of Baltimore are going to disrupt supply chains. For investors, preparation means thinking about whether you're all in on conventional securities or if you have some hedges in place. It means thinking about what true hedges are. The phony diversification many advisors like to talk about probably won't cut it. An investor isn't going to be properly hedged by moving 20% of his portfolio out of consumer cyclicals and into utility stocks. If a critical system goes down, one of the next things to collapse could be financial markets. They're already working on it, Stocks, bonds, and other assets that depend on confidence can fall nearly as fast as the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Investors are wise to acquire assets that are not dependent on confidence or well-functioning systems to hold their value. This means buying non-conventional assets beyond stocks, bonds, and money market funds. Physical bullion is one asset to consider. The goddess will say this before we look at the rest of this article. You have several classes of unconventional assets here. One is the class that could be called money sometime in the future when you're trying to rebuild shit. That would be your gold and silver. One would be intangibles. That would be your skill sets. It's time to learn new things. It's always good to learn new things, especially if they're new things that not too many people around you already know. Okay? A third would be infrastructure tools. Now, we can't just keep bridges in our backyard, though the goddess will say there are a couple of bridges right down the road that are just sitting there on giant blocks. But that's another mystery that the goddess has not penetrated as of yet. We can't keep bridges in our backyard, but you sure as heck can keep extra hand tools. You sure as heck can keep extra power tools of a limited type. You sure as heck, rather than stacking copper pennies, though I do have more copper pennies than I care to admit to right now, you can stock copper pipe. You can stock PEX pipe, which kind of disappeared last year for about a week when people were trying to rebuild from the deep freeze we had. You can stock things like that tend not to expire, and you never know when they're not going to be in your hardware store. Of late, a whole lot of shit has been randomly disappearing from stores. So it is a good idea when you get that piece of IKEA furniture and you're done putting it together and there are leftover nuts and bolts and screws that you keep them. It's a good idea before you take something to be recycled that you disassemble it and you keep some of that shit. Okay? Just saying. There's conventional commodities, then there's unconventional commodities. Then there is the big one, consumable commodities. Food. Yeah, definitely food. To be clear, the paper price of precious metals can be dragged down during a panic in the financial markets. However, it's important to understand scarce physical bullion is different from a metal derivative, paper stuff. Confidence in cash, the Federal Reserve note, is not what it used to be. The full faith and credit of our insolvent, corrupt federal government also doesn't amount to much these days. No shit, Sherlock. Many investors don't want to hold cash or buy treasuries, two of the most popular traditional safe havens. Investors are wary of rising credit risk and inflation risk and are going to look at physical metals. So that's the thing. This is the time to be gathering your commodities to you because, as we always say around here, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. That is a very big fact. It is also a very big fact that our government is being more corrupt, venal, and incompetent than usual, though the goddess hesitates to attribute to incompetence that which is likely malice. Just saying. I mean, at this point, it's a little bit late in the day to be deciding that these people don't know what they're screwing up. That's just beyond things. But anyway, on to the light and interesting drama. With any luck, at some point in the nebulous future after the apocalypse and everything have happened, the Scottish police will be showing up on my doorstep to arrest me for a hate crime. Isn't that wonderful? I am so pleased with myself. Anyway, in case you've been missing the great trans meltdown on this issue, J.K. Rowling, who is Queen of Turf Island, has been a stalwart defender of natural biological females. You know, the kind with two X's like the goddess, as opposed to dudes in dresses. Her defense of these people, her defense of all of us, has brought down a storm of epic proportions of vitriol, hate, and downright psychotic stuff against her on the platform formerly known as Twitter. So, in the middle of all this, the Scottish government on April 1st decided to play a very, very mean April Fool's that was not an April Fool's joke at all. They passed a hate law. Now, this hate law, the goddess read it because Wings Over Scotland was nice enough to post the law along with the link for reporting violations, which anybody in the world can report a violation if it happens to involve something that was also published in Scotland. Just saying. Well, this hate law covers every form of religiosity that you can imagine. It covers every form of racism that you can imagine. It covers every form of possibly hurting the fifis of anybody who's not a cisgender heteronormative individual. It explicitly does not protect women, as in the real ones. It protects the dudes in dresses. Oh, don't get me wrong. Ooh, boy. Thou shalt not misgender dudes. No, can't misgender dudes in dresses. You do that, they're going to lodge what's called a non-hate incident report or something along those lines. What that does is it puts a black mark on your record that can keep you from getting employed anywhere and stuff like that, even though you didn't commit any crime at all. And that explicitly says you didn't commit a crime, but you still have a black mark on your permanent record. And if you get enough cumulative black marks on your permanent record to show a pattern of behavior, then they all magically become hate crimes.
Wouldn't that be a mark of color?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then you can go to jail. So in the middle of all this came, of course, Trans Visibility Day on the 31st of March, where a whole bunch of us spent all day pointing out that, trans women are in fact men. Sorry. If there are any dudes in dresses out there, I have nothing against you. You're welcome to wear dresses anytime you want. That doesn't mean you're a woman, okay? Just saying. Sorry. Kind of the way reality works here. So, of course, JK was coming in for her usual amount of raging psychotic violence and death threats. So today, to celebrate the new hate law, she put out a massive thread that is 12 tweets long that highlighted some of the beautiful, brave Scottish women, dudes in dresses, that you can't say anything mean about. Even though they happen to be things like the serial rapist that magically decided he was a female right after he got convicted so he could be sent to a woman's prison so that he could continue to offend. And a few other really nice characters over there, okay? And last but least, she mentioned none other than our old friend India Willoughby. Now, if you don't follow British TV, and most people don't, even British don't like to follow British TV half the time, then you might not have run into Jonathan. Jonathan was a weaselly, nasty-looking little dude with a wife and kids that almost nobody ever saw, that one fine day decided that he was a weaselly, nasty, misogynistic, racist, anti-Semitic chick. And he went and had surgery and stuff. And then he got a nice big magic piece of paper from the British government that says he's a genuine woman and all that shit. So then he started stalking JK and a whole bunch of other actual women. He goes around deliberately misgendering real women, claiming that we're all dudes, and being racist and being sexist and being misogynist. And so JK mentioned him last but least. And he was very, very, very pissed off. So he put out a tweet saying, "Oh, so you put on an entire list of sex offenders and me." Well, that could be a little problem for old India because a couple of people on that list were not yet, at least, convicted of being sex offenders. We're still trying to figure out how he thought this was a good idea. I mean, really, how did he think this was a good idea? But it has been fairly hilarious to see the women all around the world on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, hashtagging trans women are men and truth is not a hate crime and India Willoughby is a man and hashtag arrest me. And JK, of course, has already been turned in thousands of times today, and she flat out said, "Go ahead. Come on. Bring it on. Arrest me. Biological men are men. Biological women are women. That's it. End of story. Hashtag arrest me. I am deliberately defiant." It's like, yes. It's not every day that you see someone of that level of influence, that level of money. The woman has enough FU money to last 5 lifetimes. We're pretty sure. That will stick to their guns with years of this abuse, because this abuse has been going on now since 2017. Since 2017, her family has been targeted. She has been targeted. Everybody who's defended her has been targeted, and she ain't back down yet. It's like, well, hell, we had another 10 or 20 women like JK anywhere in the world, we might not have this stupid problem in women's sports right now that we have. But, well, what can you say? At any rate, that has been the interesting day on the platform formerly known as Twitter. Oh, and AOC said that RICO isn't really a law, by the way.
Don't forget
And
the Indian Scottish.
AOC also said that if people were allowed to own guns, it would say so in the Constitution.
If they had the right.
Yeah, if they had the right to own guns, it would say so in the Constitution. So yeah, she's being more absent than usual. Oh, and in the middle of all this business going on with the hate speech law, in case you missed it, the First Minister, which is kind of like a Prime Minister or a President or something in Scotland, I guess, he's this Arab yo-yo dude named Humzak or something along those lines. Mind you, Scotland is 96% white, okay? This guy, not long ago, gave a speech where he was yelling and being bombastic and pointing out that it was disgusting and ridiculous and a travesty that all of these important government positions, except his, are being held by white people. He has a real problem with white people having positions of power in Scotland. Now, there's a whole lot of people that are wondering how he got his job, but, who knows. And now there's a whole lot of people who are reporting him for hate speech, including an official Indian council group that is saying that they find his characterizations of things highly offensive. So the question now becomes, are Scottish police going to actually do an investigation of the First Minister? Or does he have immunity? This is a good question. And the startling denouement and unexpected plot twist of the day was when none other than Rishi Sunak down in London, of all people, who is a flaming racist and a flaming trans advocate and everything else, actually came out and said J.K. Rowling was in the right and that stating a biological fact is not hate speech. This has been an amazing timeline in this regard. The goddess is quite puzzled, but very amused. Just saying. But yeah, that is where we stand. There are many, many things that are happening in the news that never make it to the news, as we all know. There are many, many things that are happening with our societal gestalt that are kind of flying under the radar if you don't spend time on social media where all the nutballs are. And there are many, many, many nutballs. But at any rate,
yes, it is true.
We still have gold. Yeah. Jeff, it absolutely is true. She actually told a sitting senator that no, RICO is like not a law. Okay.
Not a crime.
And not a crime. And then she turned around and said that if we were supposed to be able to own guns, the Constitution would say so.
We had the right to own guns.
Yeah. I mean, AOC was being even stupider than usual. I don't know how the heck he manages it. Okay.
Booster again.
I really do not know how. Okay. She has been frankly bizarre and unaccountable. Even for AOC, this is pretty damn bad. Just saying. But yeah, there are interesting developments going on because people are beginning to get damn sick and tired of this mass psychosis event. They're still not realizing we're in a mass psychosis event, but people are getting damn sick and tired of the nutballs wanting to impose their nut reality, including things like the book about In My Mommy's Belly, The Miracle of Male Birth. And yes, it's a real book. It's published by a company called Eye Candy. Go figure. I mean,
isn't it more like IPAC?
You gotta wonder, okay? You really got to wonder at this point. There's all kinds of weird shit going out there. But we still have gold, we still have silver, and we need to stock our pantries. Start keeping an eye on egg prices because there looks like we're getting more news coming into the pipeline from the food chain that this latest variant of H5N1, the jump to pigs and jump to goats, it may lead to some more culling of some more chickens here at the rate things are going. And apparently, there's been one case of it jumping to a human down in Texas this week. Haven't heard any more news about that. But people are getting sick and tired of the world that they see failing to correspond with the world that happens to be talked about on the news. And it's beginning to show on social media. So it is very, very interesting to watch. It actually is. So stock your pantries, fill your gas tanks, get plenty of gold and silver. And remember, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. And by the way, here is the number for the end of my little time here.
Wait.
Ooh, wow, that's a big number.
I had
Mm-hmm.
pins. There we go.
We are currently sitting at 34 trillion with a T, 618 billion with a B, 777 million with an M, and the rest is going faster than the speed of light. So, yeah, it's going to get a little bizarre. Just saying. That number is not looking good.
Nothing can go faster than the speed of light. The numbers are just hypersonic.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
You say nothing can go faster than the speed of light. You haven't taken a look at that budget number yet.
Superluminal, huh?
Yeah.
Anyhow, so it's been an interesting time, especially today. Eva's been chortling a lot over there as news comes in from the great Britain land across the ocean. And she let me know that there may be guys with kilts and badges showing up anytime to haul her off across the ocean to, hey, you get a no, they'd take you by a plane. You wouldn't like that. A cruise would be okay.
Like it. No, but if I could join my fellow turban in the prison.
Oh, by the way, the people involved, the singular is TERF, stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist, i.e. someone who believes in women's rights but thinks that a woman is somebody who doesn't have a penis or didn't used to have a penis. Okay? But the plural has now been determined by the people involved to be TERVin. So you have a TERF or multiple TERVin. So you are now informed.
J.K. Rowling is the queen of Turf Island. She is our queen.
Yeah, this way. There we go. There's kind of a... But anyhow. So, yeah, it's been pretty hilarious watching this. It's interesting to see such a... Hey, Gold Pan Dan. Still on schedule towards the 25th sort of thingy in your neck of the woods. Halfway to your transition? Not if I don't piss Eva off anymore. Okay? Currently, I'm just an underqualified male. Okay? But anyhow, so yeah.
Dude, even if you did transition,
apparently,
you'd still be a man.
The Scotch have decided that if you say anything that could offend anybody and it goes through Scotland, even if the person who said it and the person who got offended by it are not in Scotland, then of course it's a crime in Scotland. But on a lighter note, anyone on the planet can make a complaint. This could make for a very busy time for the Scottish police. Just one, Dan. We got to get back to work and stuff too. And but as I said, it's hilarious. Now, I wasn't it in Kazakhstan that they were thinking of a somewhat similar law, but they were also going to offer rewards for turning in
Oh yeah.
hate speechifiers.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're
$2,000.
Yeah, they're planning $2,000 rewards up there.
Okay. Now, is that only for Canadians, or can someone from outside of Canada make a complaint?
Sadly, no, it's only for Canadians.
Only for Canadians, huh? Well, how about if you're an undocumented Canadian that is currently temporarily residing in another country?
It would probably only work if you checked off at least 4 intersectional oppression boxes, dude. Give up. We are way too high on the intersectional oppression scale to get anything.
But we're only 200 miles away. We could go to Coots, step inside, step back outside, Hell, over at Coots, you might accidentally drive into Canada. It's pretty hilarious. There's a road there that follows the railroad tracks. Do not go past this road here. This is the border. Man, the security is amazing. Oh, so anyhow, I'm going to be heading off to Jimmy's tomorrow morning, first thing. Got lots to work to do down there.
Ooh.
I'm thinking that they might have stuff like that, Jeff.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
I just saw the non-performance graphs for the banking system in Q1.
The banking system, what?
The non-performance graphs. Loan volume and demand fell, while non-performance, that's defaults and delinquencies, sharply rose.
Defaults
with the fastest increase in commercial real estate.
Defaults and delinquencies in bank loans has sharply risen in the last quarter. So not good. How long will you be on the road? Approximately 2 weeks, Brian. Maybe a little bit more. We're going to be heading over there on the 11th. We got to be in Duluth on the 13th. We got to be in Abrams, Wisconsin on the 14th. And we're planning on getting into Boston on like the 17th. And then we're going to spend several days there with her son. And then we will head back roughly the 20th or 21st. So that's our evil plan. We shall see how well it works out. The first casualty of battle is the battle plan. So that's it. Once we get back, we're going to be busier than heck. And that's if none of the extra credit stuff shows up. So we'll be very busy. We'll be working hard. On a positive note, all of our health checks seem to be coming up just fine. Eva's considered cancer-free at this point. And so we're ready to rock and roll. That's about it. Money's going to be tight over there and back, but should be adequate. We have emergency plans in place, so we should be okay. And I got to buy a fire extinguisher too. Fire extinguisher. Should have done that today. Actually, we should probably do it next week after I get my Social Security check.
I was thinking we were going to be doing it then.
Yep. Anyhow, so that's the basic deal there. We can discuss that in a little more detail. I'd like to see Mount Rushmore. I presume it's something you can visit fairly easily. If there's any prospecting questions or something, or mining questions or whatever, let me know. Little one, try and remind me to bring some of that ore all the way to Gold Pan Dan, so you can show him how to do hand panning microfine gold if he's never had any good samples to do it with.
Well, I'm thinking what we could do in that regard is you could put some in like Ziploc bags and label them.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll get to that next week when we start packing. But yep, you've been rinsing the zinc drop all night, huh? How's it going, Brian? Any numbers or anything, or is that still? That's probably going to take a while, huh? Getting the iron out. Yep. So I'll say these are various things we're working on, and things are getting busy now. I did manage to get an afternoon off for fishing on Saturday, and I caught one big rainbow, and I like that. Pretty good sized rainbow. Pound and a half, maybe 2 pounds, male. Eva doesn't like rainbows. She'll do okay with browns, but browns are not legal in that area to keep. However, somebody did give me a couple of walleyes, which are very tasty, and Eva enjoyed very much. Do I have iron in my Eco Goldex? Yep, it does dissolve some iron too. Absolutely. We'll see. We'll play it by ear, Gold Pan Dan. When we're on these trips, it's really kind of flying by the seat of your pants sort of thing. How do you deal with the iron? Right now, in the final recovery phase, it looks like a lot of iron is staying in the resin. It's not coming out too well. We're going to see what we can do about that. But you could always dissolve the iron before you smelted it. But we're getting like 50% gold, so smelting out the iron is not a problem. But yeah, it's one of those deals where there's lots of things that'll dissolve iron that won't dissolve gold, and vice, and so it's easy to get rid of if you want. When you're doing your final smelt, basically the flux is dissolving the iron, whereas the gold is winding up in the lead button. You take care, Dan. Yeah, save everything until you know exactly what you've got. You may be losing stuff that you're unaware of. We were unaware that we were vaporizing gold when we were trying to smelt the resin initially. Actually, we were vaporizing the gold when we were drying the resin, which is weird. But anyhow, never assume anything. It wasn't intentional. There are certain complexes of gold which are pretty volatile. For example, gold chloride at, what was it, 300 degrees centigrade?
Yeah.
300 degrees centigrade in the presence of iron pyrite, 95% losses to vaporization. Okay? U.S. Bureau of Mines. Without the iron pyrite, it was only about a 5% loss, but nevertheless, that's a significant loss for gold. In our case, depending on the temperature we dried the resin at, we're getting anywhere from, at room temperature, hardly any loss, to at about 300 degrees in the oven, about 50% loss. Okay? Certain complexes of gold are actually quite volatile. So again, you need to test this. And one thing that worked well with us, Rock Butcher had an XRF machine for a while, so we shipped him a number of samples of the resin, and he could give us the XRF. Seemed to do a pretty good job of analyzing the gold, other stuff too. But I mean, it could tell us how much gold was in the resin directly. That seemed to work pretty well. This is not a handheld. This is a bench top designed for analytical work. Well, I don't know if entertaining is the appropriate word word, Chris. But it's interesting. It's attention getting. Let me put it that way. I'm glad to see you back, Chris. Do your best to take care of yourself. Okay.
Wow.
I say we're doing fine here, but you take care of yourself.
Oh.
And
Florida's a top landing
What?
in U.S. Customs processing zone for the Direct Rights Release Program.
really,
Yeah.
are they staying there or are they moving them on?
This is that program that's bringing in the people from directly on planes.
Yeah, we'll move
It
them on.
doesn't say, but 326,000 of the initial arrivals through February.
326,000 illegal aliens flown into the country, into Florida.
Yeah.
What? Something seems a little peculiar to me that we're actually flying illegal aliens into the country.
Well, what's even more
Something
peculiar
seems
is they
odd.
can fly around the country with no identification.
Well, yeah, they can fly without identification or anything,
And
too.
without having a fighter.
Nothing could possibly go wrong. There's absolutely no possibility that they're foreign agents, terrorists, criminals, or anything like that. Absolutely not, because they probably asked them on a form, and nobody would ever lie on a form. Period. That's end of story.
People have been finding literally tons of IDs and passports and pieces of identifying information at the border.
No, people are finding literally tons of discarded IDs at the border, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Nothing to see here, folks. Absolutely nothing. Okay?
People are now asking how much DeSantis is getting paid not to
pay attention. Yeah. Good question. Anyhow, does anyone have any questions or anything like that at this point? We're going to be trying to get up a little earlier than usual. And, well, I'll be getting up about normal. Eva will be getting up significantly earlier than usual. But I say it should be an interesting week, and then it's going to be a real interesting week the week after. So we're rocking and rolling here. Something's wrong with that, Brian. Sequence? Something? Causality? I don't know. Apparently, for some reason that they're not being terribly forthcoming about, the answer is apparently not, Jeff. Absolutely. You know, if I wasn't pretty knowledgeable about the procedures in the room, I'd say check the nuclear submarines to make sure they're not sneaking them in that way too. But I don't think so. There's just not enough room. It's not efficient.
No. How anybody could be that calm about finding a severed head?
Anyone else got any comments or questions at this point? U.S. government through NGOs. Yep. And the United Nations,
and
too.
Through a government-funded, taxpayer-funded program that they just expanded.
And taxpayer-funded programs.
That they just re-upped.
Short answer, Brian, you. Okay? In case you're curious, that's the short answer. Okay? Okay. Well, that sounds like about it for tonight. I'm glad to see you back, Chris. Sorry about all the hassles, but wow. Yep. Pretty much, Brian. I say this is not accidental. The question is, what's the purpose? Okay. You don't go to this much effort and expense for nothing. Thank you, Mr. Virtue. Oh. Okay. Well, we will have the live stream next Monday. Hopefully it'll go smoother than this one. And we will try to do a live stream on the road. I believe that's going to be the 15th of April from somewhere in the general vicinity of Toledo, Ohio. That is the plan. You bet, Chris. Eve and I are taking care of each other best we can. Everything's going good for us. Okay. And Lauren's doing fine. Jim's doing okay. And things are stable around here, or at least apparently stable. All righty. So thank you for everything. Nice, Jeff. Uh, thanks for everybody showing up. And happy prospecting and keep it safe out there.